Today, we dive into the future of coaching. That's not just about individual growth, but building thriving teams that prevent burnout and inspire lasting change. Hello and welcome to the Boostara podcast. I am your host, James. On the Boostara podcast, we speak to leaders in business and uncover the truths and insights from their amazing experiences. At Boostara, we help businesses boost growth, cut costs, and gain better business insights. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you, type the word growth into the comments below and I will be sure to reach out. Today, we were just discussing on a snowy day, as it is for myself, but a non-snowy day for Al. I'm very pleased to share we're joined by Al Wynant, co-founder of Ingomu. Hello, Al. Welcome.
Hi, James. It's great to see you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, an absolute pleasure having you on, Al. I guess, good first question. I just mentioned we've got snow here in the UK, but where are you calling us from today, Al?
I am currently calling you from Denver, Colorado, where it normally would be a snowy day this time of year, but no snow. Very nice and sunny. I'm actually, not that you can see it, not that you need to notice, but I'm still wearing shorts.
I'm very jealous. My feet, I literally have just done the school run. My feet are still cold a little bit, like block of ice. But brilliant, Al. I'm really excited to have this discussion today and kind of dive into Ingomu. But I guess it's for those of our listeners that are not familiar with yourself, not familiar with Ingomu, could you just give us a little bit of an introduction to your journey to where you are today?
Sure. Thank you. So I've always, since I was a much younger person, have always looked at how can I make, a difference in the world. But, trying to figure out how to do that at scale is a bit of a challenge. So, you work in certain jobs, you volunteer, you do some fundraising, all of that sort of stuff. And a couple of years ago, I was very fortunate. We were working with lots of coaches and speakers in a different business, and it dawned on me, it's like, wow, there's this amazing knowledge base out there, and I'm a very strong believer in coaching, but coaching is not necessarily accessible to most people, especially one-on-one coaching. So my co-founder and I were brainstorming. It's like, how can we go with this mission that we have of, we want to make a positive impact somehow, but do it at scale. So how can we bring the capacity of coaching, into the world, but making it, accessible, affordable, so most people can do it, can have the benefit of coaching. So that's how we came to the idea of Ingomu. I know that's a very sort of abbreviated story of how we got there, but it's really, for me, it's just a really unique opportunity that ties to my personal mission of, making a positive impact on as many people as possible, as we do this. And Ngomo allows us to do that in different ways. So that's sort of my educational background. Where I grew up is so not had anything to do with this. Really stumbled into this, into doing this, which is really inspiring to me.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, and I really want to touch on you started around 2020, is that right?
Yeah. Yes. That long ago.
So I kind of feel like that time period, it's a very relevant time to start, right? When everyone was so isolated in the times
Yeah.
that we were living in. I guess have you felt even we've become more connected in a way that Ingomu has become more relevant? Because I think a lot of people kind of repeat this quite often, that we're so very well connected, just like in the way that we're having this call today, but also so disconnected just in the way that the world is, and that isolation of working on your own, whether you're part of a wider company organization or not, right? Have you seen that relevance, if anything, grow?
Yes, but on both sides. So the technology, I mean, it's amazing what we can do. I mean, we're on different continents. We're having a conversation with no delay, and so on. So I think the technology has really allowed us to connect with everyone everywhere, pretty much.
Yeah.
and that's beautiful. It's, we're no longer isolated in a way, so we can do that. But at the same time, I think it has really driven us further apart as well. I'm a different generation. I'm a little bit more experienced in life, where I enjoy one-to-one conversations a lot more than speaking on a computer, or I love having stuff in person. But then when I'm in my neighborhood and I interact, or try to interact mostly, with people who are one generation, maybe not one generation behind me, where it is very hard to even have eye contact with people because they're so involved in their technology, where there's just no sense of how do I react or how do I engage with another human being. So that's sort of the other side it has there that I see a lot as well, mainly because I live in, I'm like the old guy in the neighborhood. So I interact with lots of younger people. But I think also in companies, I guess from the employee perspective, it seems people quite enjoy working from home because it does give a certain freedom, and there's lots of benefits associated with that. But I think it also is not helpful
Mm.
for companies and for teams. And if you miss that one-on-one connection, if you miss being in front of people, so sort of what you get out of that as a human being, it's very hard to replicate that with technology. But then again, I have a technology company that provides coaching via technology.
Yeah.
So I see so many different pieces of it, and it has to be done exceedingly well for it to work, I think, and there has to be good leaders in there, or sponsors or cheerleaders in there who can make that really work for you.
Mm-hmm. Who would you say, Ingomu is best suited for? Is it for, leaders that are trying to find something that will help develop their growing team? They found, as they're growing, that they're more disconnected with the team, more disconnected with the management, and they need a kind of unifying platform to assist them, or is it for, just your individual um solopreneurs that are maybe getting lost, maybe getting isolated, or is it really everyone?
Well, as a business, I should never say it's for everyone, but it is for everyone because it's for if you, as an individual, if you're dealing with issues. So actually, let me step back a little bit. So if you look at a human being,
Mm,
we all have issues, but they cover a wide variety of things. So we look at four different areas that we support, and so we support life, we support wellness, we support career, work, however you want to say that, and then we support sort of soul spirituality piece of it as well. So
mm,
everyone has something there that they deal with. So anyone can use support with that. When we look at a company level, in essence, a lot of what employees are dealing with that affects their job, that affects the company, has not much to do with what goes on at that work.
mm,
Yes, maybe they have a difficult boss they work with, or they're having a challenging project, so deadlines are challenging. You can work on stuff like that. But if you're dealing with issues at home, that maybe grief, or I have no idea how to communicate with my 16-year-old kid, whatever that may be, relationships, wellness issues, they will affect you at work. So
mm,
employers who are dealing with issues around productivity and unscheduled absenteeism, retention, and so on, a lot of the stuff that affects that can't really, companies don't deal with that. Maybe through an EPA and any of that sort of stuff. There's some resources and some coaching resources, but at
mm,
scale, companies don't work on that. So we are a really good tool for that. And we're no longer just a coaching tool. We also deal with, at the career level, we deal with accountability that's supported by coaching. So why can't you go there? Why is this the issue? And how do we help you through that process in different steps, and, holding you accountable in very nice ways. And then the same with as you think of it, less at the work, like accountability at work, it is more, how do we empower you, as a human being to do what you want to accomplish? How do we guide you through that process? So yes, is it for every human being? Yes. However, we look at it, the individual versus the corporate user, a little bit different in what they want to accomplish. So
yeah. That's you take me back to my previous working days when I lived in China, and our company took employee welfare accountability, exactly as you described there, extremely seriously.
Hmm.
And I've seen, from my working example to other companies where it's not taken that seriously. If anything, it's not a priority. It's not on the agenda. I guess, how do you communicate the value to companies that this is something they need to, take care of. This is something that they need to, implement into their company or into their day to day if they're an individual.
Like companies know what it costs to replace an employee. So if
Mm,
someone, excuse me, if someone leaves the company, they have to rehire, retrain, etc. There's an amount of money that can be attached to that. If you can reduce that number, and higher retention and so on, they know what that means on the books. Most companies know that. As part of that, I think w- if we're looking at what sort of other opportunities are available for companies from a training perspective, because so many times it's like, oh, we'll bring in, a workshop, or we'll do
yeah,
this, whatever that may be. And what you see a lot with workshops is somebody will come in, they'll do an amazing job, they'll be a brilliant workshop, but people will leave that. And so for the first, and I'm making this time up here, but for the first 30 minutes, this was great, this was exciting. And the next day, it's out of the window for most people.
yeah,
So with how we approach it is, you work with these coaches that are with you every day,
mhm,
through the technology, through the AI piece of it, but also through the real coaches, because it's not just an AI piece. It's, AI supported by real coaches or real coaches supported by AI, depending how you look at it. So then how do you take that, and give that support continuously to your employees? And then also with any human being, we all learn differently. Somebody may just need a friendly person to, handhold and walk you through a process. Somebody else may, want a drill sergeant to do something with. So bringing
yeah,
sort of a workshop in has benefits, but everybody in the room is going to learn differently. So how do
yeah,
you adjust your technology to really work with each individual person the way they need to have support with? And you can do that at scale.
yeah,
And then we see from an RI type of perspective, we can tell the clients, like, we know the percentage of people who use this, what their improvements are, what the impact of the company is. We can track all of that from
mm,
our perspective. So we will never say James is working on this because he's really stressed. That is completely private information. We will never share that, and I don't even see that information. But it's what is the impact. So we drill down onto the impact of that, and then how that reflects into the company and what that may mean in numbers for a company, as
mhm.
well. So we can share all of that.
That's amazing. Do you have a kind of I suppose like a case study or an example that you can share with us of a company that's taken Ingomu on and they've seen that kind of like transformation? Maybe with,
Without giving names,
without saying
yes.
names.
So recently, we've seen that from a daily usage in the system, that
Mm,
80% of the users are in the app daily using it. And
oh wow.
so that deals with, so the system will, so as you give you a little bit of background. So as you use the platform, a user comes in and says, here's what I want to work on, and here's how I want to feel as I work on this. So the
Yeah,
system will then follow up with them and giving them daily nudges and journaling prompts and so on, and recommend coaches to work with. So people
mm,
engage, over 80% of the users engage with it on a daily basis, which is an amazing number. And then
yeah,
we look at what is the efficacy of this. And
mm,
so recently, most of the most of the results coming back hover sort of between 78 to 82% of
yeah,
efficacy for, how people are improving. And those numbers are great as well. And then if we're looking at the use of the technology. So we said that six times the industry average of people who actually use the technology. So who are going in it, implementing it. So it's not just something like, oh great, we got to download this thing. People actually use it, and then we can track their
yeah.
improvement. as they work with it. So, and that's really system average I'm giving you right now. Without, I don't want to highlight a specific client because we're
Yeah,
very
yeah,
cognizant of privacy, especially since we're coaching.
yeah.
That's a little bit, a little
No,
bit.
but that's amazing. That's, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? It's like,
Mhm, mhm.
people are using it, then that shows that
Yes,
and people coming back to it. And no matter how many clients you have, it's about the use of the system, right?
correct,
Because
correct.
as you say, a company or an individual can just go have a training, they can go to a course, and then the next day it's forgotten, right? But
Mhm.
using this kind of platform of returning, using again, then that shows that there's there's something being used, there is value being derived from it, right?
Yes.
I mean, I guess, how do you find the companies, to take on your platform, the matching kind of clientele for yourself?
So yeah, it's kind of funny because in a way, you go like we can sell to everyone, but
Yeah.
we really look at companies right now who are sort of high stress industries
Mm,
that have a lot of churn with their employees, and so how can we help them, prevent that? So the hospitality, the medical world, hospitals and so on are in there, banking, financial world, they're all in there. So we do it in different ways. It's we have the old fashioned cold reach outs that we do as well. Love them or hate them. As part of this process, we do content, we do referrals, we have people who connect us as well.
yeah.
Those are the most successful ones, obviously. And then existing users, they go like, oh my god, we see what this can do. You should talk to, on the golf course. You should talk to Ingomu,
Yeah.
that's that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
So we that's it's all over we use AI a little bit as well for that, which as an AI company, because we employ AI as well, we have very empathetic, AI here with Ingomu. From the sales perspective, I still have a little bit of a love dislike relationship with it.
Yeah.
Because I know when I get a sales email that's AI generated versus a real person, I sort of I'm learning to work with that.
Yeah, yeah. No, sure. Well, I can poke you on the AI questions shortly,
Yes.
but no, no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, it's where there is a need. So your platform is needed for companies, individuals that are under stress, right? So it's only right that those are the people that are going to benefit from it, and that you would contact, right, in those kind of high stress situations, right?
Correct.
It's the way that we that we find and contact them. It differs, right? But where
But it's not.
there is a need.
Yeah, but it is not a magical solution. Some of these
Mm,
issues are cultural in companies. Some of these issues are, they are embedded in companies, and it's not that you can come in and go like, here's an app in a month, everything will be better.
yeah,
There
yeah,
is a process to it. But fortunately, the solution is very cost effective as well. So as a business, you know the problem, so you have to be willing to invest, the energy, the resources in
yeah,
making it better. And most businesses obviously want to make it better. They
yeah, yeah.
understand.
What are those sort of common pushbacks you get from companies? Those sort of misconceptions they have when first sort of talking
Yeah.
with yourself.
So the biggest one deals with coaching, because most companies are very used to one-on-one coaching. So an individual works with a coach individually on issues. So we don't operate that way. To make the system scalable, we run group coaching sessions. So
Yeah,
a coach will run a session on a schedule. So it's almost like a TV show every second and first, Thursday at 8 p.m. whatever. And so the users can get live, drop in live with that coach, be in the session. It is private. The users can engage with the coach, ask questions, the coach can respond to it, and they can engage between sessions as well. So it's a different way of coaching. So they
yeah,
have to overcome the wait a minute, coaching is one on one. It's like, no, it's group coaching. It's to get as a community built around an issue, so it
mm,
makes it stronger. So that's usually the beginning, sort of people who are, especially the C-suite, who is so used to getting one-on-one coaching. And then where we can say, well, we can make this available. It's not just for you in the corner office. It's really anyone in your company can have access to this.
yeah,
From the front desk person, the janitor, to the CEO can have access to this.
mm,
And then the sort of the holistic piece of it. It's like, whoa, I have one coach. I was like, well, here you can have handfuls of coaches to work on any issue you want. So they have to
Wow.
sort of get through that. And then the next question is like, whoa, this is going to cost a lot of money. It's like, well, no, it doesn't, because we built it to be very scalable. And I think
Mm.
in the third, and it depends where the people are coming from, really is the AI perspective. Because we've built this very human AI part of the system that gets to know the users and interacts with them, as they are. So it's very different for everybody on the system. So sort of the first human agentic AI that we've done, and so people are sort of like, wait a minute, this AI is going to take over? It's like,
Yeah.
no, we use AI to support the coaches in giving you, so sort of the daily nudges that come in, the journaling prompts that come in, they're all very tailored to how you engage with the system, and it
Yeah.
gets to know you and so on. So it doesn't become your coach, so to speak. So that, and then privacy issues with AI obviously come up as well. So, but I think a lot of that, because it's such a new thing, really, for most people who are not in the technology world, and so there's a lot of questions that come with that, which are fair questions to ask. But I think
Yeah.
for us, I'm sort of squirrel here, sorry, I get to go off here on the AI side. For us, it was really important. So we're in the final stages. We have a first draft that we're using, but we're doing an AI constitution for the company. On, here's how we use AI, how we implement it, how we work with it, and every decision we make is based on that AI constitution, as it
Interesting.
relates to that. And then we make that publicly available so people can see. We call it AI for good instead of AI
Wow.
for whatever,
Yeah. No,
for the
that's
robots
great.
to take over.
That's just transparency, isn't it? That
Hmm.
obviously it's not in law that you have to do that, but it's just out of your own interest to be transparent and to show how it's
Correct.
being used. Um,
Correct.
I
And
that's
you
very
never know how the laws are going to evolve.
exactly
You
right.
know, so you may as
Yeah.
well be a little bit ahead of it.
It's looking ahead at what potentially could be down the line, right? How to protect yourself, but others. And
And the
we've had
users, yeah.
guests on the show. One was a PSHE consultant, and
Hmm.
his advice he put out to head teachers, schools listening was have a policy on deepfakes. Because it hasn't happened within schools yet. A deep fake that may involve a member of staff, a student, someone related to the school, but it will happen, and you've got to know how you're going to respond. So have that policy. Someone else, fractional recruiter mentioned, if you are an employer, put on your website your policy surrounding interviews and AI bots. For example, it's not acceptable to interview for a position using a replacement AI bot, which people are
Hmm.
doing right now, but there's
Hmm.
nothing.
Oh yeah.
Companies, recruitment companies are not saying whether you can or you cannot. They're not saying anything. So exactly having that kind of written testament, yeah, it just makes things clearer going forward.
Yeah.
You've already touched upon AI, but in the coaching world for yourselves, but I just want to get from you a very general question: is what is the impact of AI within coaching? How have you seen this play out over the last couple of years?
I think, very personal opinion here, I think it's still a little bit the Wild West, because
Mm.
organizations like the International Coaching Federation and so on, they are working with us and looking at it. And I see coaches, trying to sort of make an AI avatar of themselves and sort of become the coach. Coaching for me, I mean, yes, we use AI as well to enhance what we do, but I think, and this may change in the future, because AI changes every 2 months. It grows, or gets smarter every day, really. I think coaching is such a personal experience for the for the individual being coached, but also what that individual coach brings to the table. Because
Yeah,
I'm a very strong proponent that a coach has to have somewhat lived what they're coaching on. and I'm sure collectively you can put this all on a machine and have it spit out something, but there is something really special on how that individual can bring that experience to then the coachee or to the group of people they are working with that is
Yeah.
really hard to replicate with a machine right now. I
Yeah.
think the AI can enhance and keep the person accountable because coaching is about accountability.
Yeah.
Because you work on something and you make a commitment that you will do this between now and the next session.
Right.
So rather than a coach go like, "Did you do this? Where are you with this?" Doing that sort of admin follow-up stuff. I think AI can very easily, and in a very human way, follow up with the coachee. And that's when in our platform, our AI is called Eric. So our coachees, our users know that it's Eric
Yeah.
following up with them and saying, "What's going on? Have you journaled about this?" They know it's not the coach, just they know the differentiation between the two.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I am sure, I mean, it was a couple of years ago when virtual reality became such a thing, which kind of somehow now is kind of has disappeared
Yeah.
from the world. It seems like, but where people were, we need to have virtual coaches in virtual reality, and we
Mhm.
looked at that too. And I was like, this is. I'm not sure if this is going to go, if this is going to work out. But with AI, I know where we are today with this. Where will it go in the future?
Yeah.
It will play I think it will end up playing a stronger role in it, but I hope it will never fully replace the human being. And that is
Mhm.
sort of my wishful thinking, and I think we have to, we have to be really cognizant of that and put some protections in place, I think.
Yeah. I think that that phrase of people buy from people rings quite strongly within coaching specifically because I think the more acute, the bigger the problem that someone has within their personal life or professional life. Yeah, they can maybe get surface level answers from
Mhm.
AI. Even just imagine a robotic, coach that can get those kinds of answers, but it's the emotional lived experience that takes people in and just people choose their coach. There's so many
Mhm.
choices of coaches out there,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I suppose the difficult thing is anyone can be a coach, right? Um, but
That's the other Wild West part of it.
people are hopefully taught that
Yeah.
look at the credentials of the coach, trust the coach, like the coach, and
Mhm.
and then work with them, right?
Yeah.
Can AI really replicate that process?
Well, I
I,
think that the challenge with AI too is so many of those models out there, they're trained on all of the information in the world.
mm,
And but not all of the information in the world is correct. That's why
yeah.
these things hallucinate and give you wrong information. What we do is we refuse to do that. We don't do
Mhm.
that. We only train our AI on real coach data, on our
Yeah.
coach data and so on. So the answers that our platform will give is 100% based on real coaching experiences. And
And
so it's much more meaningful, and it takes in those lived experiences into
mhm.
account and can adapt it to different situations, but it's all based on that real coaching. It's not just some article from some magazine it has found somewhere, somewhere online that it's trained on. So we don't we're almost sitting in a closed ecosystem as it
Yeah.
comes to our AI, as part of that.
Yeah. I mean, thinking, I suppose, with your business hat on, I guess, what since 2020, launching Ingomu, how has AI changed the game for yourselves and being able to grow the business? Obviously, you have elements of AI built into the platform, but I suppose in building your own team, in building the whole product and the business as a whole, how has that kind of changed the game for yourself?
Was change the company completely. So when we say we started in 2020, most of that part from the beginning was research development and going, can we make this thing work? So the
Right.
company may have existed on paper, it wasn't necessarily operating for the users at that
Yeah.
point. But we started out, Ingomu coaching app. That's what we will be doing as we started looking at the AI piece of it. Excuse me, the AI piece of it. We came very quickly. We came to realize this Eric thing um, has bigger legs, or however whatever the saying is. So
Yeah.
now, so right now we have Eric. Excuse me, Eric is in Ingomu, but
Mm.
Eric now can also be in other platforms.
Yeah.
So we've gone from coaching app to almost, and there's almost another piece to it where, because now Eric is already sitting in another platform, and we're already talking to other companies about taking, the Eric as the accountability tool, putting into their platforms. So, but it's all a little bit related to coaching and wellness and so on. So it brings a larger pool of data together to make Eric even stronger. But so yeah, so we never thought we would be that type of company. But
Yeah.
now that, Ingomo is obviously what we're extremely passionate about, and the positive difference that can make, but then also taking that opportunity of using that power, of accountability and coaching and so on, and putting that somewhere else, has changed the company.
Mm.
So that has only really happened 6 to 8 months. In the last
Yeah.
6 to 8 months, where your people go like, "Can we use Eric?" I'm like, "Well, technically, yes, you can." So yeah, so that's sort of how it changed the company,
Yeah, that's amazing,
in
and I
what we
suppose
do.
that's the acceleration that AI is going through at the moment,
Mhm.
right? This kind of whole revolution. It is providing just a whole range of opportunities, left, right, and
Yeah,
center.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess for yourself, with the business where it is at the moment. I ask this question to everyone. It's always interesting to see how everyone reacts. But if you could take one part of your team's day to day, and AI, whether it exists now or doesn't, it can, tech stack, automation, whatever it might be, it could just take one part of the day to day, and that's just hands free, gone. What would have the biggest impact on the business or on your staff members?
Wow, that's a great question. It, and I'm not sure if this even exists, but it would be amazing if there was a piece that could, because we run with a small team. We do an immense amount of stuff with a small group of people, where AI could look at us going like, "Stop wasting your time on this, focus your time on that," and just really
Mm.
streamline the processes and streamline what we focus on. And so that would be an interesting concept. Um, but then also potentially look at how we can do things more efficiently and
Mm.
do things better. Um, and maybe not have to work 16 hours a day, and reduce the time. I mean, I'm exaggerating that number,
Yeah.
but make that a little bit. So how do you run more efficiently? You know,
Mm.
um, that seems really interesting to me, and maybe that exists already, but I'm not aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sort of, maybe. I'm sure there's other things
Yeah.
that I can
Does
think
that
of.
does that come from, I suppose, having a large team, right? Where I suppose, you've got to try to make sure that everyone is running as efficiently as possible
Yeah,
for
and
the.
we don't have an office. Our whole team. So we have always operated even from before pandemic. So this wasn't a huge change for us. So pandemic happened. So what changed? I'm like, I've always been working from home.
Wow.
So it didn't change that. But how can you run more efficiently? With your team if you're remote. So,
Mm.
and what are you missing? What are you spending too much time on? What could you do in less time potentially, or what resources are available? So any of that
Mm.
sort of stuff, I think, would be, um, and maybe also, reducing meetings.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Meetings for
That
meeting's sake.
oh, yeah, I'm trying to know. My meetings have gone down on my counter to 20 minutes. If you can't do it in 20 minutes, you don't, so that sort of stuff, yeah, and anything that can make operation more streamlined is very attractive to me.
Yeah. And I think once that exists, then that goes into Ingomu, right? For your clients, because that's
We'll
that's
we'll
an added bonus, right? For larger teams.
we'll make Eric smarter. Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah, I mean, there's so much you can do with it. I mean, I use it all the time myself. I mean, this morning I went on our app and did my daily stuff on there, but yeah, I'll have ChatGTP open for something. I don't write stuff with it, but I will, if because I write emails right quickly and I go to, ooh, typos, I'll plug it in there going,
Yeah.
is there any typos in here or grammar mistakes in there? And it will go, yeah, well, there's one. And, I use it for that and other things as well. So, um, I mean, I'm not opposed to AI whatsoever
Yeah. 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 No,
until the robots take over.
yeah. Yeah. That's the. I know it's amazing. Different insights. I suppose. I suppose. A good sort of final question on AI would be, for you in coaching or in the business, let's say, where would you draw the red line in terms of the use of AI?
Oh, so I think what we see a lot in coaching that there's still a misunderstanding of some people what coaching is.
Mm,
So is it therapy? Is it coaching? Is it sort of workshop related stuff? What are the different things? And people sometimes come to coaching and oops, I apologize. My
that's all
Siri
right.
starts talking. I apologize. Um, sorry. Um, where I don't there's a little bit of a red line as it comes to diagnosing and prescribing and so on. So when people come with serious medical issues, and I'm just talking in our world here, not globally
Yeah.
here. But when people come with serious issues that really need human support at this stage, that's not a little bit, that's a big red line. So where yes, no, you're not giving medical advice, you're not giving, prescriptive advice, any of that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. We've trained our AI really well on that when, people come in and I've tested it myself. I had a significant medical issue earlier this year, so I started asking it medical questions to see what the responses would be, and
Yeah.
it kept on saying, I'm not your guy, so to speak. You
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
to your physician. So any of that sort of stuff, I find that's a big red line as
Mm.
part of that.
Yeah.
You have to be really careful with. I'm not saying that not obviously people in the medical field are working with that and studying that from diagnostics and so on, and that's perfectly fine. But from our
Mm.
side here, um,
Mm.
that's a big red line right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's and I think, well, for myself and for anyone listening, you've already mentioned you have that what do we call it, the advice, right, on
Oh yeah, the
yourself,
Constitution.
the
Yeah,
constitution on how you use AI, right? So you already very clearly know, what you're using it for, what you're not using it for, where that sort of red line is, but
hmm
then also how you're harnessing the power of AI to have the
yeah,
maximum impact, which is at the heart of what you are doing. You've created Ingomu to help organizations, to help businesses, individuals to get through those hard times and to develop, right?
yeah.
And I think that's where probably a lot of businesses, a lot of leaders are not quite as mature in their thinking in this regard, because we just see AI everywhere. It's a buzzword. There's I read somewhere 40,000 tools, right,
It's
out
insane.
there. And everyone's a bit overwhelmed. They don't know what they can do, what they can't do. Some people are really, really conservative. Other people are just use it for everything, right? There's no
Yeah,
sort of strategic, critical thinking on how to use
correct.
it to the best of your, for your
Well,
advantage, but then also where to stop.
I think it's in our perspective, and then from our perspective, how we use it. So a company, let's say with 1,000 employees, is using this.
Mm,
And, we're like I said, we're never going to tell the boss, guess what, Al's working on this issue. But if we see, in 1 week that suddenly all of their team, or let's just say 60% of their team, is starting to work on something around stress and anxiety, something is happening at this company. So you can let people, so the leadership can know, it's like, wait a minute, there's this huge uptick on this particular issue that people are working on, so then we can start going, something is going on at your company. Do you want to know that? And then you can do something with that. You can support that. You can figure that out. So having that information like that, is invaluable, because you can, almost in real time, you can address issues with people. If it suddenly is like two people start working on stress, not a big deal. But if suddenly 60% of your team starts working on stress, or 20%, even if you only have two people, you suddenly go to 200, there's an issue going, there's something going on. And so if you have that information at your fingertips, I mean, AI can do that, and spit that information out, while protecting, obviously, the privacy of what your users specifically are working on. So that stuff, I think businesses, when they can start looking at that information as a valuable piece, so they can proactively do things, I think that's invaluable, to
Yeah.
companies. That's not something to be scared of, unless you don't want to know what's going on at your company.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Interesting. I guess Al, what's in the pipeline for you guys? What's coming up, over the next kind of period?
So we are, Eric is growing and is going into other places, so that's exciting. We're launching a new version of the app, by the first week of December. We've put some enhancements in that. We are, interestingly enough, another thing that has come up, is taking our app and having it white labeled for companies or organizations that work on very specific issues around very specific coaching. So that is another opportunity that has come up, that's then supported by the AI and stuff. So that's in there. And then we always look at, how do we evolve our coaching to work on the topics that are needed out there. So do we bring
Yeah,
new coaches on, new topics on? So that is always something that's changing. And then we are regionalizing, what we will be doing as well, because coaching in different parts of the world may be slightly different. Right now we
right,
are one infrastructure for the whole world.
right.
We'll look at regionalizing that a little bit with coaches in, Asia, and the Middle East, Europe, and so on, because everybody, what how people do things in Europe can be a little bit different than people in the United States. So how do you deal with those nuances,
Yeah,
on the coaching side as well? So lots of different things happening.
amazing, amazing. I guess who is an ideal, I suppose, person, company to reach out to you and start a conversation that might be listening.
So if you have problems in your company with, productivity and retention, and sort of unscheduled absenteeism and so on, that's obviously an ideal company to talk with, because we can help them with that. But also a company, if you want to give resources to your employees to deal with, issues that are important to your employees at home. Being it financial issues, being it wellness issues, family issues, and you want to give them a nice tool that's that's basically pennies a day, as we say here. We'd love to speak with you as well, because it's a very nice thing you can do for your employees, so they can be empowered to live the best life they can live. So
Yeah, 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 exactly. And that, I can't. I mean, I haven't been on the platform as of yet. I'm gonna check out for myself, but I can't commend just the whole idea of employee welfare and development more highly, right?
hmm
How so very important it is for your company. And I've seen it, and I've been at the forefront within companies that I've worked at,
hmm
where I've seen the positive results, not just for the staff, but for the whole company, as a whole, for the CEO, for the financial side, right? When you have a happier, healthier, more motivated company because you've taken that time to actually care for your staff and put these kinds of processes in place, it has such a massive impact. It's really, really invaluable. You can't put a price on it. I mean, potentially you can say. however much percentage of, staff retention and
Correct.
that to how much money, but it really is invaluable. And I think, if you are a business leader and you are growing, especially if you're looking at growing your team, your team is just naturally growing, you need to have this kind of platform in place. So I would
Peop-
highly, yeah,
People want to work for companies that care.
yeah, yeah,
That's just,
yeah.
yeah, that's a reality.
Yeah. I guess, for anyone listening, what are the best contact details to get you on, Al?
I'm very, very open, so people are very welcome to email me. It's Al, just Al, at ingomucoach.com. So feel free to email me there. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. You can find the company on LinkedIn as well, and then ingomu.com. However, we're doing maintenance right now for the next couple of days on the website, so you probably won't you'll get to the maintenance page. But find us on LinkedIn, find me at al at ingomucoach.com as well, and I'll be very happy to connect with you.
Amazing. I will put your contact details below in the
Thanks,
comment
James.
section here. But yeah, I guess, absolute pleasure having you on, Al. A
Thank
few
you.
takeaways from this conversation. I think we said it quite strongly there about, the value of generally your platform, right? The invaluable nature of, putting this kind of efforts into staff welfare, right? Staff retention, staff development. Don't really need to say too much more on it. Is so important, and also knowing the nature of the world that we live in. If you're doing it the same way as maybe it was done 10, 20, 30 years ago, have a rethink because the technology has changed, right? The insight, as Al has said so clearly, of what you can understand from bringing in this kind of platform. That you understand that everyone is accessing the stress course. What's been happening in the company? That's that you can then think more strategically, right? So you're taking this extremely seriously. The second one I would say is the constitution that you mentioned. For anyone that is using AI to whatever extent it might be in the company, consider that, constitution. Do you know where your red lines are? Do you know what you should be using it for, shouldn't be using it for, no matter what, laws have been written or not written yet within your, your country of operation. Third, I would say, with AI, and this has been repeated quite a few times, is that human touch element. We don't know what the future has in store, but one thing is for certain in the here and now, that human element, that human connection is still extremely important, and we shouldn't forget it whenever we are bringing in these kinds of solutions. Yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
went a bit over there with the with the review, but absolutely brilliant having you on, Al. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me, James. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Brilliant. And thank you everyone for listening. Please like and share this video so we can get it out to as many people as possible. Thank you.